They're getting some breaking news in the investigation into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie.
The DNA testing machine at the local jurisdiction was broken. That is not a dramatic detail buried in a press release. That is the Pima County Sheriff saying it out loud on the record, that when investigators found biological evidence inside Nancy Guthrie's home and needed it processed immediately, the equipment designed to do that in hours was sitting out of service. The sample had to be driven to Phoenix. And while it was in transit, the clock on the most medically urgent variable in this entire investigation was already running. Nancy Guthrie takes daily medication. Without it, according to the sheriff's own statement, the window before that becomes fatal is 24 hours. That is where this case began. Not with a slow-building missing person report. Not with a welfare check that came back inconclusive. With a crime scene recognized as a crime scene within hours of law enforcement arrival, homicide teams deployed before the formal determination had even been made, and a sheriff standing in front of cameras saying the words that ended any ambiguity about what happened inside that house. She did not leave on her own. She was forced out against her will. The interview that produced more confirmed investigative detail than any other public statement in this case came from journalist Ashley Banfield, who has known Savannah Guthrie professionally for 2 decades. What Sheriff Chris Nanos said in that conversation was not speculative. It was operational. It described in direct language what investigators found, what they did with it, what they could not yet say, and why. And the picture those details produce is not of a case still searching for its footing. It is of an investigation that knew within its first hours exactly what it was dealing with and moved accordingly. The DNA evidence recovered from inside the home was not described in terms of location. The sheriff confirmed it existed. He confirmed it was biological material found within the residence. He confirmed it was being processed. And then he stopped. No specific surface. No room. No detail about where inside that house the evidence was located. That refusal was not evasion. It was deliberate and it was explained. There are things known only to the person who was inside that home. Details about what was touched, what was moved, what was left behind in the process of taking an 84-year-old woman out of her own house in the middle of the night. Those details remain protected because they are the mechanism by which investigators will separate a genuine suspect from someone attempting to insert themselves into the case. The moment those specifics become public, the asymmetry investigators depend on disappears. The sheriff understood that. He held the line. The rapid DNA machine in the local jurisdiction was out of service. That single logistical failure compressed the already narrow window further. The evidence went to Phoenix. Once processed, results would be run through CODIS, the national DNA database, and through private laboratory services contracted by the Sheriff's Department on rush orders that typically return results in 5 to 10 days. The sheriff described the timeline as never fast enough. He was not being dramatic. He was being precise. Because every hour the biological evidence spent in transit was an hour Nancy spent without her medication in the hands of whoever took her. She could not walk more than 50 yards. That detail matters not as a description of vulnerability but as an investigative constraint. Whatever vehicle was used to move her from that home had to be immediately accessible. Not parked down the street. Not around the corner. Within the span of a driveway or just beyond it. The surface of that driveway did not preserve tire impressions. No gravel. No mud. No weather conditions that night that would have captured the outline of a vehicle that had no reason to be there. The physical environment erased the one piece of evidence that would have confirmed the transport method, while simultaneously confirming that a vehicle had to have existed. You do not move a woman who cannot walk 50 yards on foot across a residential neighborhood in the middle of the night. Something was waiting for her. The sheriff was asked whether she walked out or was carried. He said that was unknown. He was asked which door was used. He declined to specify. He was asked about footprints inside and outside the home. He declined to answer. He was asked about missing bedding. He declined to answer. He was asked directly about blood. He redirected to the DNA evidence without confirming or denying what form that evidence took. Every refusal carried the same explanation. The details that remain protected are the details that only the person inside that house could know. Releasing them closes an investigative door that cannot be reopened. Exterior cameras existed at the property. The sheriff confirmed them. Interior cameras could not be confirmed. The footage from those exterior cameras had not yet been fully accessed at the time of the interview, not because investigators had not tried, but because access required cooperation from the manufacturers of the devices. Whether the systems were cloud-based, locally stored, or required technical intervention to retrieve, was still being determined. That access process was already underway. And whatever those cameras captured in the hours surrounding Nancy's disappearance was being treated as evidence that had not yet been fully extracted. Two parallel tracks ran simultaneously from the moment law enforcement arrived. Search and rescue deployed across the surrounding area. Criminal investigators deployed inside the home. The sheriff described the moment those two tracks diverged. Patrol units had already responded. Search and rescue was running. And then investigators saw what was inside and outside that house. A sheriff with decades of experience looked at what his teams were describing and said, "This is not right. This is not a woman who wandered away. Get homicide there now." The search and rescue operation was subsequently suspended. Not paused pending new leads. Suspended. That suspension is its own statement. It means the evidence at that residence pointed so definitively toward a criminal act that resources being used to search for a woman who might have left on her own were no longer justified. She did not leave on her own. The evidence said so. The sheriff said so. And homicide said so by showing up. More than 100 law enforcement vehicles surrounded that property. Ground crews, K-9 units, drones, aircraft, all deployed at the same time. Investigators fanned through the neighborhood, knocking on doors, pulling ring camera footage, logging every vehicle that did not belong in that area. License plate readers were engaged. Preservation requests went out to every digital source within range. The scope of the initial response was not the response you build for an elderly woman who may have gotten confused and wandered off. It was the response you build when you walk into a house and the house tells you something happened there. The family was already inside when law enforcement arrived. They had spent approximately an hour searching the property themselves and making calls before dialing 911. The alert had come from someone at Nancy's church who noticed she had not appeared for Sunday morning services. The family went to check on her. They walked into that house. And they knew before anyone in a uniform arrived that something had gone terribly wrong. No ransom demand had been received at the time of the interview. No calls. No communications. No contact of any kind. The sheriff confirmed this directly when asked. And that absence, in a kidnapping case, does not reduce the urgency. It expands the mystery. Because a kidnapping without a ransom demand in the first hours points toward motivation that is not primarily financial, or toward a plan that had not yet reached the stage where contact was intended. Either answer raises the question that every investigator in that room was already asking. What did they come for? Savannah Guthrie, described by the sheriff as incredibly sharp, as someone whose legal training and professional understanding of investigation made her an unusually capable resource for detectives, was working alongside law enforcement, providing details about her mother's habits, her routines, the layout of the home, what the house was supposed to look like, and what it looked like when they found it. Nancy's phone was still inside. Her vehicle was in the garage. Her medication was untouched. The biological evidence was in transit to Phoenix. The camera footage was still being accessed. And somewhere between the moment she was dropped off Saturday evening and the moment that church service started Sunday morning, someone came into her home and took her. The evidence confirmed it. The sheriff confirmed it. The question that remained was not whether a crime had occurred. It was who came to that door, how they knew what they knew, and where they went when they left. If you have any information, contact the Pima County Sheriff's Department at 520-351-4900 or the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI. The reward exceeds $1.2 million. No arrest is required to claim it.